This Jocks 94.5 podcast is brought to you by Millennium Satellite and Video. Log on to msbnow.com. TV excellence everywhere. That's Millennium. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning starts now.
I don't know why the guy throws me off every day, but he does. 15 just seems like it's right around the corner, closer than maybe I even anticipate or expect. But we had live tackle football on our televisions last night, so shouldn't be a big surprise that we are just a day ahead of 2 weeks until college football kicks off. Maybe it's that first weekend. Not going to be on games, calling a game, and that makes it feel a little bit different. But does it feel like 15 days away for you, G-Mac?
You know, I go back and forth. It does feel really close. Media Days feels like a long time ago. And usually when Media Days feels like it's a while ago, that means the games are right around the corner. So it does feel close to me. But my goodness, to know it's literally coming up with a big game week 0 in 2 weeks is kind of insane. But I'm excited about it. I hope you are.
I'm absolutely excited about it. I just don't necessarily feel like – I don't want to say that I'm not ready for it. It's just I think now that the kids are in school, I'll really be able to dial in and start getting some prep done, start getting it done the way that I want to, and probably more so that I need to. I can't get anything done at home with my kids that are there. It's just not going to happen. And part of the time is I don't want to because I'd rather hang out with them. But now that I'll be able to sort of lock in, dial in just a little bit, I watched a little bit of the Netflix SEC show that's out. I forget the name of it. SEC University, SEC Full
Unreal?
Access, 24/7
Oh, wait, no, that's the WWE.
SEC. What's it called? I don't know the name of it. It's not bad. It's well done. I don't know if like South Carolina helper coach, I didn't know if I knew much about him. Got to know him a little bit. Didn't know Graham Mertz's personality. Not what I expected either, really, of Graham Mertz. I don't know why, but just not what I anticipated from him. Seems like a good dude, but not the guy that I kind of thought he was going to be after you heard what the coach described him as. But that's kind of getting the juices flowing a little bit more as well. And we keep hearing about different things coming out of camp, what's happening with these teams. I want to start with Alabama. And the defensive line is something that we feel like could be a strength, could be really good. Could be more than just solid. Defense coordinator Kane Wommack assessing that defensive line so far through practice for the Alabama Crimson Tide.
You know, I mean, obviously having TK back for another year is huge. Not just physically and who he is as a football player, but the accountability that he has in that room for a bunch of other younger players. I think he does a great job of holding that room accountable, of pushing the standard in that room. You know, Beeman's a great example of a guy that grew up fast. You know, where he was a year ago as a true freshman at the beginning of the season to the role that he played for us in the bowl game and played it well, to where he was in the springtime to now. I mean, this dude has made great strides. You know, he feels like a veteran player out there, even though he hasn't had some of the reps across the last season that maybe even Zabian Brown or another true freshman had. And so really proud of those guys. I think, Freddie and Jamie Mosley, those guys are doing a great job of really pushing that group from a physicality standpoint. These are the dog days of fall camp where you got to kind of push them through. You know, the big guys, they got to be pushed. You know, right now they don't naturally want to run around the field for 60 snaps or whatever it may be, including individuals. So like the direction of that group, but certainly their maturity and development is going to be a huge indicator to our success.
Is there a certain guy you're looking at, Greg, that needs to step up for that group this year? And maybe not even the name, but a body type, a skill set on that defensive line that you feel like if he comes along, it's really going to push this group ahead of where a lot of people think it's going to be, or maybe where even we think it's going to be.
Are we talking secondary or defense as a whole?
Yeah, he went Zabian, but I think he's just talking about defense, like freshman reps that they got last year. So we're talking D-line right now.
Yeah, D-line to me, it's Tim Keenan. Like I think it's going to be so big for him to have a nice year. And I don't need him to have an All-American candidacy. You know, like I just need him to plug the middle. And then I need James Smith to hit his potential. And then if I can get one or two more guys up front defensively We know what we're getting already with Quay Rousseau. We know what we're getting with LT Overton. We know what we're getting with Zebo Latham. Like, we know what they're getting in a couple spots on the edges. But I just internally, that's the one thing. I just want to see some depth emerge. So for me, it's James Smith and Tim Keenan.
I think Keenan we talked about him enough. He kind of is what he is. James Smith's the guy that I think nobody talks about, that I've seen him flash in some ways that could really be dangerous for Alabama this year. I think he could be a problem for a lot of people, just the effort that he gives, how he plays. Got good leverage, strike and shed with his hands, good strong hands. I mean, he's somebody that has been disruptive at times too. I think Latham's another guy that is almost in the exact mold that could also be a problem up front there for Alabama and do some different things. So we've worried about the depth. We've wondered about the depth. And I don't know, as Kane Wommack states, some of these young players, some of these freshmen, are they going to be able to step up and be what this defense needs? The linebacker position is still going to be the one that I think you and I look at and say, all right, who's going to be next? Because you're going to have a lot of those guys on kick cover, on punt cover, on kick return, on punt return, and they're not just going to have to be out there, filling in for Deontay Lawson and Justin Jefferson every now and then, which are going to need that too, because those two can't go 70 snaps, 75 snaps a game for an entire season, especially with the length of the season that we're dealing with now. So that's still a position that I'm kind of looking to hear about what the other guys have done so far through camp.
Well, I would say Deontay Lawson, I feel good about him being able to give you a lot of snaps. The guy's a veteran, he's been around. I know he's coming off a knee injury, but he takes great care of himself. Like, I think he can give you enough. I think Nakai Hill is definitely a guy that they feel really confident in. It sounds like he's a guy that's come in and impressed some folks there, so I think depth is good there. And then Justin Jefferson now going into his senior year, first time as a full-time starter. I feel like you have three good ones there, but I'm with you beyond that group. Like, 3 is probably not enough to feel super confident and comfortable. You know what I mean? Like, how many ideally would you have at the second level? In the rotation, playing regularly where all right, no drop-off from one guy to the next.
I want 4 at least.
Probably, right? I would say even 5. Just because you're going to lose one. You'd probably like one that can excel in certain situations and against certain personnel. You probably want one guy that's like a major thumper and a team that wants to pound it on you, fine. He's going to be your guy. And I feel like teams used to have that guy where, hey, against certain teams, this is our guy. Against other teams, this is our guy. Like, I think you'd like to have 5 in a perfect world. And they have the numbers. They have the numbers plenty. And they've recruited a bunch of guys. There's 3 freshmen in the linebacker room that can all play. But I don't know how good they are. I don't know how capable they are of playing as a true freshman. So I think 5 is the perfect number. And there's only 3 right now that I feel real good about.
Well, and then too, like I go back, you lose one of those guys. Are you losing a first teamer on punt cover, kick cover, punt return, or even on 2 of those? And so then all of a sudden now the next guy's got to come in and do all that, or your starter, who's going to be getting more reps, all of a sudden now has to be the starter there and go get those special teams reps. Like, it can get discombobulated in a hurry. And you and I have both seen a million times when your first teamer on kick cover, probably more so because you have more time there when you're going to go cover a kick, but more so on punt return, punt cover, when everybody's flipping out because, number 8's not in the game. And like, who's up next? Who's the guy? And he was probably just on the field and just coming off and didn't know he had to fill in for somebody. And then everybody's, it's all of a sudden become scramble drill, trying to get a guy out there on the field so you don't have to call a timeout or take a penalty or be down a guy either way. So certain positions affect your special teams a ton. And if you have to get more reps there, it puts those guys through more throughout the course of the season. That might not be the best thing. One guy that we have wondered if he can have that breakout year, because we think he has the potential to be able to have it, as Quay Rousseau. Kane Wommack, just on how he has been progressing so far through fall camp.
On a team full of freaky people, Quay is the freakiest. You know what I mean? He is freaky athletic, and I think he's a special talent in terms of his strength. You watch him at the point of attack. When we started talking about violent hands, which is one of our Bama fundamentals that we continue to stress and harp on, Quay's ability to destroy blocks and get off and make plays. There was a play against Auburn. A guy came and, pulled against him. I mean, absolutely obliterated him at the point of attack. Those are things, right, that show up on tape in terms of his strength and physicality. But, ultimately, right, it's about knowing, what I like about Quay is like knowing when to and when not to, from a physical standpoint, be too aggressive. And I think he's learned a lot last year with the experience that he had. And I think he's what I would call, has turned himself into a controlled, aggressive player.
That's kind of part of the growth, is to understand, when to throttle down a little bit, understand how to change direction a little bit better, that sometimes you set things up without going just a million miles an hour on every single snap. It's no different than what we talk about with running backs, and how to have a little bit of patience before you put that foot in the ground, get north and south. And he starts learning some of those intangibles about how to be a better player, better pass rusher, and some of those just intricate details of what it takes to win off the edge. He could be scary this year, Greg. I think this is another name, and I feel like you and I have given about 50 in the last month that not a lot of people are talking about, that I think has a chance to be pretty scary this upcoming season.
Answer me this. Like, I'm all about Quay Russaw being the go-to guy, but he, for me, was a go-to guy last year, and it never really materialized. You know what I mean? So I guess what, outside of the injury that he suffered against Wisconsin, like when watching him last year, what do you think kind of held him back? What was it when you watched him, you said, all right, this guy's got the juice, like it's in there, we can all see it, but for whatever reason we don't get it every week?
I think it was kind of what Kane. I think it's kind of what Kane's talking about. He had one speed, and you and I both know those guys specifically off the edge. I feel like you get more of these guys off the edge. Maybe you get it at, maybe you get linebackers like this that run themselves out of plays and whatnot every now and then, but it's just basically it's a million miles an hour and then right down the middle of the tackle. And then it's because there's nothing that's been set up. They don't know how to change speeds. You can't really change direction well. This will sound weird to people, but you can't be a good change of direction guy when you're always going 100 miles an hour. It's impossible, because you got to know how to set things up. You have to have a little, I think probably the best way I would state it is adding some fluidity to his game. And if he can do that and understand how to set certain moves up, how to set a tackle up, how to get a tackle doing what he wants them to do as opposed to just doing what the tackle wants them to do on every play, that's where I think he can change a little bit. Because when you're just that full speed, hair on fire, nonstop guy, a lot of times, not every time, but a lot of times you end up right down the middle of the tackle because it's just, I'm just going to go right at him. And it's kind of like, well, hold on, you haven't set anything up. Like this guy, a tackle doesn't have to change his set at all if you just end up doing that every time. And all he's got to do is realize that he can cut off your speed to the point of attack. And then when you have no counter, that tackle's okay. You got to make him pay for setting with depth and start to set with a little bit of width, then get him on an inside move. Then you got to get him setting for depth a little bit more quickly. Then you'd put the bull rush on him and try to knock him back a little bit. So I think adding some fluidity to his game will help him more than anything else.
Well, I feel like just watching them.
That might be the nerdiest technical answer that we've ever given on this show, by the way. People are like, what in the hell is he talking about?
It's not that nerdy. It's basically just changing the tempo. It's no different than, being able to take a little off a wedge as you mature as a golfer. It's all the same. But what I'm trying to figure out with him is when I watch him, he's disruptive, but he's not a takeover, or he was not last year a take over the game guy. But I keep hearing that he's a take over the game guy, but I haven't seen that yet. I think, like I said, he looks disruptive, and I'm just hoping now, after a year of quote being disruptive, now he can develop into, all right, we got to account for 4. Like, he can wreck our offense. Because to me, I don't know the intricacies of pass rushing skills. Like, I just watch guys and I see the guys that take over games. Because when I'm watching the defense, I'm trying to study the secondary, I'm trying to study the coverages, I'm trying to study what they're doing up front with games and adjustments and twists and ETs and TEs and stuff like that, just making note of those things. Well, when the same guy keeps making play after play after play, that's a takeover of the game guy. He just didn't make that many plays last year. He's disruptive, but he didn't make that many plays. So I'm just really optimistic about after a year of just already being a bit of a problem, now he's going to be a guy that can down in, down out impact the game. And I don't know what that looks like I said, because I don't know pass rush skills. But you seem to think it's possible. Do you agree? Do you think
it's definitely possible. He's got the juice to be able to do it. And you heard Kane talking about the athleticism. He's got the bend, the twitch. He can become a good pass rusher. And I think just more reps.
Do you agree with that assessment? Like he needs to go from being disruptive to a take over the game guy.
Yeah, and I also think last year just consistency in the games didn't really allow him to do that. He just didn't play and he didn't play enough to be able to understand the intricacies of the position, the details of how to force a guy to do the things that you need him to do, and consistency being on the field is going to allow him to do that. It's just I think he and Lawson need to be healthy. That's at the end of the day. I don't think they have another guy like either one of those guys. I think some of the other players on defense, secondary, you can speak more to that, but I think D tackle, D end, I think you got some other guys that can be close to that, but those two I think are just different as far as what's going to be next and what else you're going to be able to throw on the field. Weather here in Alabama is still different. If that heat's getting to you, don't let it. Rely on a train. Keep them comfortable with the train at your home because they've been recognized as America's most trusted brand 11 consecutive years. And they're the official cooling partner here at Jocks. Find a comfort specialist near you at train.com. It's hard to stop a train. Okay, here's what we got coming up for you today. Trent Dilfer, UAB head football coach, right before he hits the practice field at 7:30. We're going to go around SEC camps with Wes Mitchell and Matthew Byrne in the 8 o'clock hour. Andrew Bone has a write-up on an Alabama defensive player that we have not mentioned today. He'll join us at 9:20. We'll discuss that with him, and we'll get you caught up around all the camps through the SEC on what's happening, injury news, different notes around fall practice. All that and more next right here on Jocks.
Go inside Jocks 94.5 on Jocks TV. Morning Jocks, Mac and Cube, and three-man front video simulcasts are presented by Bill Smith Buick GMC and Game Day Men's Health. Watch on the Jocks mobile app and YouTube by searching Jocks 94.5 TV.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, continuing to take you around the SEC. Listen live online, jocksfm.com. The app is in your app store. That'll direct you to the YouTube page where you can watch us live every morning. Just search Jocks 945. You can watch us on YouTube at the office or at the house. And also the app is going to give you access to the podcast and the ability to just listen live right there. Kind of wrapping it up with Kane Wommack and that Alabama defense. Not just Quay Russaw, Greg, but also how that defense can potentially create more sacks this upcoming season.
That was one thing that, if you point to some of the areas that we had to improve upon from last year, being able to create negative plays in the backfield, being able to affect the quarterback, certainly from a standpoint of creating more sacks defensively. It was something that we needed to look at. So fundamentally, we tweaked some things, and schematically, just created some more variance in some of the things that we're doing in passing downs. I think we're in a good spot right now. I think, that's an ever-flowing, what does this team do this week? How elusive is their quarterback? How do we want to contain him and also, force pressure and those things? And so, week to week, those things are going to change. But if you build a catalog of defense in the offseason, those are things you can kind of go to week to create variance in what you're doing.
Is there a part of that you think sounds like he's coming up with more ways to create havoc and get to the quarterback, that he may need that?
I think now, here's my thing, is with the secondary as young as they were last year, you had to be kind of simple, I feel like, in the back end, and you probably didn't want to apply too much pressure at the second level. Now you can put those guys on islands, man. They've played a lot. Damani Jackson's proved to play at a crazy high level. Xavier Brown has, I think, shown that he is as capable as anybody of being a legit lockdown corner. I think they have depth at that position. The return of Keon Sabb is a bit of an enforcer there, kind of mid-second level to third level, can roll in, can roll out, can play over the top, but is best served as a bit of a headhunter. And then you got Bray Hubbard, who's a good drifter there in the back end. Like I think you can be now. Like last year, you had to protect the secondary because of their youth and inexperience. Now, if you want to send a guy and you want to have 6 in coverage as opposed to 7, you're in good shape. because you're probably going to be a little more confident in the matchups that you're going to have. So I still think ultimately Kane wants to be able to get home with 4, but I'm sure there's not going to be as much hesitation to send an extra guy, knowing the experience that he now has in the back end that he did not have a year ago.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. So that kind of wraps up Alabama and Alabama camp, hearing from the defensive side of the football, things that are happening over there. You guys know what's happening at Royal, though. It's easy to pick up your new car right now at Royal Automotive. Why? Well, you got multiple dealerships in one location: Royal Buick GMC, Royal Volkswagen, Royal Automart, Volvo Cars of Vestavia Hills, all at the corner of I-65 and Highway 31 in Vestavia. From sales to service, the team at Royal can help you find that new ride and keep you rolling when it's time to start searching for your next vehicle. All 4 stores in one location means you can get behind the wheel for a test drive without driving all over town. And when they say for every ride there's Royal, they mean it. If you're shopping for that very first ride or your dream ride, go see my friends at Royal Buick GMC, Royal Volkswagen, Royal Automart, Volvo Cars of Vestavia Hills at the corner of I-65 and Highway 31 of Vestavia, online at royalautomotive.net. Before we go to Trent Dilfer, who will join us in 7 minutes, just before he actually takes the practice field today, wanted to go to Athens, Georgia. Some of the questions that we have about the Bulldogs this upcoming season. Offensive line, a big one that I think, because of who's actually played at certain spots and shown flashes of being pretty good, have a chance to be really good this upcoming season. That's giving them some real leeway, and I get that. But Mike Bobo, the offensive coordinator, just on how he has seen that offensive line improve so far in fall camp.
I think, we need to play better as a whole offense, and, offensive line, that starts with them. And, we have some youth up front, but there are some guys that are coming back that have experience. And there were injuries, and offensive line is about cohesion and playing together. And we did not play together enough last year to be efficient in all areas. And that's the main thing that we've been working on. We've got to be one unit up front. I think all offensive lines have a little bit of chip on their shoulder because of who they are and how close they are as a group. And I think this group is doing a good job, even though they're young, practicing hard and focusing on day by day.
So that's the key. We mentioned that a lot with Oklahoma last year, Greg, and the offensive line struggles that they had. Well, you were having guys practice that weren't going to play because the guys that were going to play were dinged up, so they weren't really practicing as much. And then you had to begin to mix and match that. It didn't allow for any continuity. It's one of the things that I kind of look to try to figure out about fall camp is how many groups were able to just get a lot of reps together. You didn't have the starting left guard miss, the first week and a half of camp. Or after camp got started, the starting right tackle, he was being limited because he had a hamstring or whatever it was, and, he wasn't able to get most of the first team reps, and so filled in. I want to know who was out there the most, and it sounds like Mike Bobo understands that and feels like this group's been getting that so far through fall camp. Probably going to be huge for that offense because, quarterback's young, inexperienced, yes, but everything else around Georgia that's probably not getting enough conversation could help that group be pretty sporty.
Well, I think the best part about Georgia, man, I think that offense could be pretty good. They got great weapons, man. We have not spent nearly enough time on their weaponry this offseason. So much of the conversation centered around Gunnar Stockton, and I feel like, frankly, of all the teams that would be in contention for national championships, seriously, I really don't think we've talked about Georgia even as much as we've talked about Clemson, even as much as we've talked about Texas. They are way on the back burner for even us, and we live this every year. So I think they're a legit national championship contender, and it's not so much about the quarterback play, even though I know that's what most people want to talk about. It's because of how good their personnel is likely going to be on the outside, and whether or not their offensive line is going to be a lot better, and they're going to be able to pound it, which they couldn't do a year ago. So I'm pretty encouraged by what I've heard out of camp there. But I don't know about you, Cole. I still think this team needs to be a ground and pound outfit. And I get the sense that you're kind of in the same boat. Even if they have all those great weapons at wide receiver, you still got to ground it and pound it.
I don't think there's any doubt. And I'm with you on the folks that just kind of refuse to or haven't really looked at what this team has. I'm going to come back to that a little bit later in the show. Need to get to a break now. We'll welcome in Trent Dilfer, UAB head coach. On the other side, next right here on Jocks.
The capital of the sports talk nation. This is Jocks 94.5 and JocksFM.com. Birmingham.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 7:30, Friday, August 8th. McElroy still in Dallas. We're going to go to the practice fields in downtown Birmingham. Trent Dilfer, UAB head football coach, joining us now on the Higginbotham hotline before heading to practice. I want to start with this, Coach. I was kind of taking a peek at you guys the other day, and the thing that continued to stick out to me, kind of get an idea what you guys were going to be this year, was running back. And I know not all that I saw are going to be back with you, but the few that I did see that are going to be back on your roster again, man, those kids run hard. They're not going out of bounds. They're looking for contact. They're finishing north and south. And I know for what you want to be offensively, it's got to be a pretty good place you feel like you're going to start with what you're going to be able to put on the field this season.
Yeah, you're right. By the way, nice to be back with you guys. Yeah, it's a good group. They practiced really well so far. They had a great off season. You know, losing Lee Beebe in the off season was tough, but a great kid and deserved what he got going to Indiana. But getting Isaiah Jacobs back healthy, Javon Jackson, who we got in the portal, who's been a really productive back in college football, and is even better than we thought he would be once he got here. And then Solomon Beebe, who has really Lee's younger brother, who you saw last year a little bit, some kick return duties and scored a touchdown late in the season, has really come on and elevated his game. So we feel confident that position. It's been one of the strengths of camp so far and of the offseason. So it's a legacy here to run the football. It's part of UAB's identity. Started with Bill Clark and Brian Vincent and Henley Brigham, who all were steadfast about running the football, and we're the same way, and we have the same quality of back that's been here for a long time.
Coach, Javon's a Decatur kid. I've heard coaches over time since this portal started the way that it is now. I can remember Kane Wommack at South Alabama, Eddie Robinson Jr. at Alabama State, all telling us, hey, we keep in touch with these guys because when they do get in the portal, we're kind of hoping they want to get back closer to home, and that gives us an advantage. Would this be sort of one of those stories?
Yeah, no doubt. And Eli Ennis, our inside linebacker, is another one. DeMarcus Smith. You know, we have other players that we're really counting on this year that are went off somewhere else, but are from this great state, missed home, want to be closer to their parents, their friends, their fans. I think they realize they go taste the apple somewhere else and realize it's better here in Bama and come back and want to be part of Alabama football. I think it's a distinct advantage we have here in the state where kids want to come back and play football where they grew up.
So looking at kind of the emphasis heading into the fall camp period, if there's one thing that you feel like is the number one priority for you, what would you say that is as you're now heading into week number 2?
Finding out who breaks and who's unbreakable. You know, it's 2 years of just finding, breaking in the wrong moments, breaking down mentally, breaking down physically, breaking down emotionally. We've had horrible emotional regulation discipline in 2 years, breaking down technically. Like if you go back, which I did, and just watched every snap of every game of these 2 miserable years, you just see a lot of breaking down. So it was pretty simple to me when we came back in the winter was we got to identify those that we can trust that won't break in big moments. I think one of the great things about college football is the offseason. One of the worst things about college football is the offseason. It's great because you get a lot of work, get a lot of camaraderie, get a lot of building. We have a great strength coach and leader, so we do a lot of cool things. The bad part about it is you get fooled because it's underwear. Nobody's tackling, nobody's finishing, nobody's hitting, nobody's doing the football things that you actually have to do to win football games. Nobody's having high-pressure moments where they got to think clearly. So we try to create as many things as possible to, create the pressure that it takes to play in a game physically, mentally, emotionally, and see which ones could grow in the midst of that instead of breaking down. So That's really been our focus. There's a lot of other technical things and football things, but none of those things matter if you're gonna break.
I don't think there's any doubt. It's one of the things I was watching that Netflix documentary on SEC football last night, and we've heard a couple of coaches talking about it through camp. Is just the kids are more sensitive this day and age. Bottom line, like no nice way to say it, no two ways around it. It's just kind of is what it is. How do you continue to try to adjust to that with the personality of today's college football player?
Don't put me on my pulpit, but I think it's not just kids, right? I think everybody. We're in a culture where feelings determine action too often, and part of maturity and wisdom is just choosing best over how you feel. There's a lot of things we have to do as adults, as parents, as productive members of society, impactful humans, that doesn't feel good. Like you don't want to do it, but you have to do it because it's better for the people around you. It's better for you. And we've really stressed that. That's part of the breaking. What we identified as why most of them break is because they get in their feelings instead of just choosing to do what is best. What is best for them many times. It's best to have good habits. It's best to eat well. It's best to hydrate. It's best to try your hardest. It's best to go to class. It's best to study. Like I can go on and on and on. But you don't always feel like it. Many times you feel like binging Netflix, or you feel like getting on your Instagram feed, or you feel like self-medicating, or you feel like whatever. That doesn't mean it's best. And we're trying to get these kids to understand, don't let their feelings rule them, let best decisions rule them. And the more we emphasize it, a lot of eye rolling, a lot of what you're crazy, coach, but you keep holding them to that standard, and over time you start seeing them choose best over their feelings and break less.
Well, I would think that with your background, having played and won a Super Bowl, it feels like to me you would be in a really good spot to be able to illustrate that message of going the extra mile and doing what you need to do. I do want to ask you about Jalen and how he's progressed this offseason. I know talking to you a couple months back, you're really pleased with where he's at and how he continues to kind of take ownership. Where are we at with the quarterback spot and how he's processing things right now?
Yeah, I want to go back real quick to how you led to that, and I'll answer the question, Greg. But it's not. I think sometimes most of these kids weren't born when I played. Most of them weren't. They have no idea. So that's not that big of a deal. What is a big deal, though, is to give them 84 years of professional coaching experience on the staff. So it's not just me. It's multiple guys on the staff have been in professional football and been where they want to be. I gave him a stat yesterday in offense. I was bragging on a couple of our coaches because, coaches can't brag about their pelts on the wall, their street cred. But I said, listen, between your quarterbacks coach, offense coordinator, wide receiver coach, you have $450 million earned in the NFL of guys they've coached. Now, just wrap your brain around that. Not to be earned, because they're probably going to earn another $300 million. But to this day, guys they have coached $450 million. Yeah, a lot of that's the talent of those players. But you don't think that they had something to do with it? You don't think Alex Morton said something to do with Tua and Mac and Jalen Hurts? You don't think Kevin Garver had something to do with Larry Fitzgerald, who calls him all the time, by the way, or J.J. Nelson or Chris Godwin? These guys know what they're talking about. So that has been something that has really been impactful, is when our coaches are echoing the same message that I'm echoing, and these players are like, I should probably listen because they do know what's best for me. They've seen people reach the dreams that I want to reach and help them get there. Maybe they can help me too. And Jalen fits into that. I think Jalen, we've had to speed up. We've had to create multiple seasons for him within the off season, pressure-packed moments, high-intensity things, because he just hasn't played a lot of college football. He's got 8 career starts under his belt. We're expecting him to play like he's had 40 career starts under his belt. So his willingness, his preparation, his engagement, All those things are an A+. Camp has been a C+. I think it's been solid. I think his instincts have gotten better. I think he's more natural playing the position. There was some stiffness last year. There was some awkwardness in how he played it. That's kind of going away. But as I've told him, you're never going to reach the standard, the expectation of Morton Knight. It's just too high. We expect perfection. But just keep preparing that way, and then game day will unleash you and let you loose, and we'll see what happens.
Trent Dilfer, UAB head football coach, joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Where has your team excelled the most? What has satisfied you the most so far through fall camp? And like you said, a lot of it can be fool's gold because not a ton of time in actual pads, knocking each other around just yet.
I think their approach. They're a group that comes ready to prepare, whether that's a meeting room, whether that's a practice. Not a whole lot of complaining and moaning and all that stuff. They get that we don't know who we are yet, that we have a lot to prove, we have a lot to earn. Very little entitlement. You have guys that started at a lot of programs around the country that came here that make a decent amount of money, but they're not starters yet. They're getting second team reps, having to earn it, and they're not really complaining about it. So now that can change, when we start, one spotting more stuff and there's not as many reps and you see your reps go down. But to this point, I've appreciated the approach. There's flashes in every area that people want to know about that look really good. But our issue's still this, and I harped on this to the coaches. I said, hey, quit, smelling rainbows and rose petals. We have a high ceiling. But we have the last 2 years. And if you watch us play, we make explosive plays on both sides of the ball. The problem is our floor is so dang low. Stupid penalties, undisciplined, gash in the run game, sacks, turnovers, drop balls, all the things that get you beat. We do all that. We've done all those things. So I'm far more concerned with raising the floor. I'm maniacal every single day. My coaches are just sick of hearing me say it. I don't care about the good stuff. I want to see the bad stuff get better. The bad stuff has to get exponentially better before we think we can beat anybody. Alabama State or Army or Navy or North Texas, whoever it is. We're beat ourselves. We got to figure out how not to beat ourselves.
Defensively, with so many new pieces, new voice in the room, all the things that you're trying to accomplish and improve, it feels like turnovers have to be number one. Just looking at everything, it feels like that has to be number one. How do you make that – and we've heard it for years. We have balls around the facility. Guys are carrying balls. They're knocking them out when they're walking down the hallway. Whatever it is, whatever gimmick you have to do to kind of make sure that that's continued to be pounded into their head. Turnovers. We need more to improve off the 13 from just a year ago. What are you guys doing specifically to address that? And has it been effective so far in camp?
It has. It's a great question, Greg. I don't know if you guys felt this way in your playing days, but training camp is a hard time to judge it because you're pissed off if the offense turns it over, right, but you're excited if the defense turns them over. So I'll give you a couple examples. Yesterday we run a outbreaker post concept, right? And Jalen, our receivers running 4-4. Jalen throws it 68 yards down the middle of the field, straight dime. And Reek Watson, who is the fastest guy on our team, is getting beat by about a step and accelerates and picks the ball off like bread baskets it. And the receiver has his hands out because he thinks he's going to run through it and, walk in. And I'm like, that's not – we're watching the film with Jalen. We're like, I would have thrown it too. I don't know what to say. I would have thrown the exact same ball, right, if I could. And the receiver, he's doing his job. Heck of a play by Reek. That's a big-time play. Jeremiah Vessel, a couple days ago, we're running an in-breaker, and he gets stuck in transition and kind of instinctively sees that's an in-breaker and lays his body horizontal to the ground, reaches back, and picks off a ball inside. And everything said to throw the football, right? So it's like you can't tell the quarterback not to make the throw. Like, anticipate the window, throw it in the window. You just had an exceptional play made by the nickel. Roy Williams has punched out 3 balls. And these aren't like just get your hand on the ball. These are like the peanut punch. And, called him out in the meeting room and was able to get him a little NIL deal because of it. Denver Warren a couple of days ago in practice is getting washed out. He's double teamed and he spins out of the double team. It's a live period. Spins out of the double team and dives horizontally to punch out the ball on a running back and gets it on the ground. So, those things are really encouraging. Now, the problem is, why'd the ball come out of the running back's hand? You know what I mean? Why didn't the receiver on the post fight for the ball a little bit more? So, for every good, you can look at some bad too and be like, we got to stop turning it over. But man, that's pretty cool that the defense is turning us over on some exceptional plays. So obviously it's been a point of emphasis. It's highly competitive. You see the defense scooping and scoring every time the ball hits the ground. Steve Russ is just absolutely maniacal about, excuse my language here, but the motto is get the damn ball out. So that's been encouraging. But again, I am so skeptical right now because we haven't played a game and I haven't seen the live bullets yet. I see some good. I still see some bad. We have a ton of work to do before I'll feel comfortable getting ready to play Alabama State, who's going to be a really good football team.
Coach, we always appreciate the time. I know you got to get on the practice field here in a few minutes. Thanks for hanging out with us today. We love talking football with you. Let's do it again soon.
Appreciate it, guys.
There you go. Trent Dilfer, UAB head football coach, joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Great insight to some of the individual players there. Great insight into how practice going so far and how he's managing today's college football players. Again, we love talking football with Coach Dilfer. Always great. All right, when we come back, I want to go back to, we mentioned some of the weaponry there for UAB, some of that Georgia weaponry that we were referencing. You're going to have to wait for that conversation, but one thing you never have to wait for, GMAC, is your dental care.
That's because Family Care Dental has you taken care of to the urgent care office where you can be seen the same day in several locations to make it easy on you. In Hoover, Fultondale, Homewood, Alabaster, and Trustful, they can get you in the same day. They can see you on Fridays and Saturdays. They can accept patients of all ages, and most insurance plans are accepted. Call them today for that appointment. The routine appointments now include free teeth whitening. So call them at 874-9605. That's Family Care Dental, 874-9605.
Where should Georgia's weapons rank in the SEC? We'll discuss that next right here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning.
Go inside Jocks 94.5 on Jocks TV. Morning Jocks, Mac and Cube, three-man front video simulcasts are presented by Bill Smith Buick GMC and Game Day Men's Health. Watch on the Jocks mobile app and YouTube by searching Jocks 94.5 TV.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Talking weaponry around the SEC, around college football. One that we mentioned earlier in the show that doesn't feel like it's getting enough love are the Georgia Bulldog weapons. And you want to get out of the gate quickly if you are Mike Bobo in this Georgia offense, and they'll have the ability to do that with some of the players that are going to be surrounding quarterback Gunnar Stockton. Mike Bobo yesterday after practice discussing the emphasis on early starts so far with his offense through fall camp.
Anytime you start a football game, you want to start fast. A lot of it was execution issues. And then sometimes, to be quite frank, it was a little bit being conservative in those situations. And then the other side of it, the teams we played were pretty good on defense and, stopped us early in games. But that's been a big point of emphasis of ours. There's several of them, but starting fast is one of them. That's something we definitely got to improve on.
So they'll be able to get out of the gate quickly, GMAC, with some of the weapons that are going to be there inside this offense. And we have discussed a few of them at times here on the show, but haven't really gone in depth like we have with some other teams. And it deserves that conversation because when you start looking at how you're going to, if they get solid offensive line play and the quarterback is a little more than serviceable, there shouldn't be a lot of heavy lifting, specifically if they take that mentality, like you mentioned, of being more of a ground and pound football team. Dylan Bell's back. He's played running back, receiver. They'll move him. One of the better football players on this team. One of the things that pleased me most, what I heard from Kirby Smart early in this fall camp, was bringing up London Humphreys, and that he can be a guy that helps them, because we've seen him do some great things at Georgia, very limited. We saw him do some great things at Vandy, kind of limited, but he can play, and he can be a guy that can give you some stuff over the middle. He's got a little bit of catch and run juice, very reliable. Then you get Zachariah Branch, who comes in from USC, a deep threat that has a ton of speed, that's going to be able to help you vertically. You're going to have to respect what he can do. Obviously, he can help you in some of the quick game. Colby Young, we've seen him in a Georgia uniform, extremely solid, obviously can go. And then you go to A&M and get Noah Thomas, who gives you that sort of Anthony Mix at Auburn, Johnny Wilson type frame at Florida State of just looks like a basketball player on the football field, and gives you a different body. And then I hadn't gone to the tight end group with Lucky Lawson and Oscar Delp both being back. It's a loaded room of pass catchers for this Georgia offense, and I'm with you. I don't think it's gotten near enough run that it deserves this offseason.
Well, look, and it's fair because it wasn't necessarily like the splashiest pickups ever. But if you think about fit, they needed some length, a guy that could win on the outside. They bring back Colby Young that you referenced, who was supposed to be their go-to guy last year and was lost for the season. You now have Noah Thomas, who can win those contested catch balls in the red zone. You bring back both tight ends. Both are excellent. So that's a good spot to be in. You also have, I think, the Zachariah Branch pickup. While it wouldn't work for some, I think it works great for what they want him to be, like in that Arian Smith role. He's not going to be a guy that's going to just route you to death. He's going to be a guy that catches it and runs it. He's an elite kick returner. He's elite in space. So they're going to get him the ball and let him go to work. And I think with some of their short screens added around the line of scrimmage, with some of their pop passes, with some of their tunnels, like that's a great role for him to fill. And then you still have solid pieces back like Dylan Bell. So I think it's a top 3 or 4 group in the league when you take everything into consideration.
I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, who sticks out as just glaringly better? Like let's put them up against Auburn. Auburn can't touch them in the tight end room. Texas, I mean, I don't think they're hands down that far ahead, or even definitively ahead of where Georgia is. Texas might have the edge in running back depth, but I mean, it's the skill position for Georgia going into the season is on par with anybody else in the league, and it hadn't gotten enough discussion. Good thing we'll be back next to discuss it more, as well as South Carolina with Wes Mitchell next right here on Jocks.
This is McElroy and Cubelic in the morning.